And I've been focused on working with children and families throughout my career as a social worker. I'm also a mom to a 4-year-old little boy and twins, a little boy and a girl who are 2 years old and soon to be 3. So by no means am I an expert on the topic of parenting, but I'm just here to offer some uh, specific tools and strategies that we pass along to parents that we work with here at Social Development. So I'm going to try and share my screen so I can show a PowerPoint. So just bear with me while I try and do that.
And I worked with the Multicultural Association for the last 10 days, 10 years. I think in the parenting field, nobody is an expert. I raised 2 children and now I am a grandmother. And I have been leading a couple of conversations and support groups at the Multicultural Association in this topic. Then we know that the best way to go with these topics is probably the conversation around, because we all have some experience and some knowledge and ways to do things. Then we probably would like to hear from you your questions and your doubts and your inputs in this presentation. Then Gabrielle was able to share her hangout, and let's go, Gabrielle. The floor is for you in this moment.
So when Marisa and Do and I were talking about parenting, it's such a broad topic, and so many things that we could discuss. So this is just a little snapshot or a brief discussion about one of the tools that we share with the families that we work with here at Social Development. So, and I was speaking with one of our parent aides that we use. So somebody that goes into homes and helps work with families to around some of the challenges that they're having with their children. The parent aide that I had discussed this presentation with had said, well, what I do before I start working on anything with families is talk about the importance of relationships and attachment and healthy attachment with their children. And I introduced the tool, which I'm going to show to you, called the Circle of Security. So with our kids and our children, there's so many things that we cannot control. So many things going on around us in the world. So many things that our children are exposed to outside of the family that we don't have any control over. Then those things are difficult to navigate for us as parents. But this presentation is an introduction to a tool that can help us foster healthy and strong relationships with our children within our household. So something that we can control. And we believe that the relationship and the attachment within the household between the parents and the children is the foundation for teaching children and achieving positive changes in behavior and a healthy exploration of the world. So Marisa, anything that you'd like to add to that before I move on?
No, I think you're right. The idea to start seeing how this is better now. Oh my God! What about? Okay. No, it's not working. Okay, the problem is that you say the more important thing to take account is when we are going to start building our relationship, how we extend our communication, where we are. And that means we need also to check the inside communication that we are holding with ourselves. That I think is sometimes we always tend to look outside and we forget that it's also inner communication in us, in our children, that is going to play in this relationship.
Mhm. Mhm. So this is a tool that we provide to most of our parents when we start working with them. And this tool we call the circle of security. And what it is, it's a visual map of a parent or a caregiver and the child attachment. So it's a tool, it's a visual tool that you can use to help connect with your children and to reflect on the children's need for attachment with the parent in order to promote that secure attachment with your child. So we use this model for several reasons when working in child welfare. We use this because we know that attachment problems in infancy and in early childhood increase the probability of problems later in life for children. We know that secure attachment relationships between the parent and the child is a protective factor for children, especially infants and preschoolers. And it's what sets a foundation for social competence and promoting effective functioning, emotional regulation, and responses to stress. So it's the foundation for helping your child move along and progress in life as they grow in a healthy way. And we also believe that lasting change in the attachment relationship between the caregiver and the child is based around the capacity of the parent to build and support that relationship with their child rather than learning the techniques to manage the behavior. So if you have that secure base in your relationship and your communication with your child, then you can use all sorts of different techniques in order to manage behavior, but it's that relationship that's the foundation. So on the diagram, it's the hands that you see that represent that secure base or that secure attachment relationship. And how you achieve that comes with the parent's ability to, when the child is coming to them, to protect the child, to comfort them, to delight in the things that your child is doing and achieving, and the parent's ability to help the child organize their feelings when they're distressed or troubled. So if we're able to do that as parents, then we're able to move around the circle to support your child in their exploration of the world. Children need their parents to be there to watch over them, to delight in their achievements, to help them to enjoy the things they're doing in their day-to-day activities with them. And as we do that, we need to welcome our children to come to us, to come back around to us for protection, for comfort, and to help when children are in distress. So that's kind of the idea of the circle of security. Any questions around that before I move along?
Gabriel, this attachment that we are talking here have to be, you say, we create a comfort feeling for the children, help them to manage their feelings,
Mhm.
and also have the capacity to be there
Right,
and be there for helping them to enjoy the experience that they are having.
right.
That somebody is eating or playing or whatever we are doing, the idea is that as a parent, we need, or it's better if we have that capacity.
Mhm.
How that work? Um, how we can decide that that is the best point to do it when I am no, if I don't have that inner thoughts about my feelings and my how I think my point is it is a need to check inside of each one of us to make sure that we have all that capacity to support the children and to create this attachment that we are talking here in the circle of security. Is that correct?
Mhm. Well, I mean, what we want is we want our children to come to us. Um, and I think all parents want what's best for their children, and I think all parents want to see their children succeed and to see their children um, have positive experiences out in the community and in school. And they want to see their children enjoying their life day to day. And we want our children to come to us when there's a problem. We don't want children to fear coming to us. We don't want our children to fear getting in trouble, so they're not going to tell parents what's going on, right? Because there's so many things going on for our kids outside of the home, and we want them to feel that they can come to us as parents when there's a problem. And we need to, in order for children to feel that way, we need to spend that time communicating with them and supporting them when they do come to us.
I don't know if it's any idea from the parents that are having this moment that experience that want to share or to ask with us.
Marissa, we seem to be having a lot of background noise from you. You're difficult to hear. I'm not sure why.
Let me see. Probably I have my heater. It's better now.
No, there's a lot of static. A lot of static. Anyway,
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I had been fighting during those 8 months to get a good way to communicate. But if I get the good sound, I don't get the video. And let's try to work with that. Okay, I will turn back to Gabriel and I will try to connect my Bluetooth and see if that will work.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know why I have. Do you guys see blue marks on my screen?
Yes.
I don't know how to get rid of those. Yeah. Why? I wonder why those are there.
somebody watching was able to put those on there.
Oh. Okay, because I don't have them on my
No.
on my laptop, just on my
It's
screen.
okay.
That
I
you
think we
guys
can see.
Okay.
I think, Gabrielle, if we stop screen.
The first thing that I'm going to talk about, so to kind of answer your question, Marissa, about, how we can do this, how some strategies about how we can build that relationship what are we going to do when our kids are, while we're responding or addressing to negative behavior? So how do we respond to negative behavior and also foster that connection and relationship? And these are just, of course, these are ideas of how you can respond when you respond to your child when you see behavior that you don't want to see. So your child does not follow the rules or expectations of the parent, or a child has behaved in a way that's gotten them in trouble. A strategy that we suggest using is what we call a time in. And as parents, this isn't necessarily a natural feeling, and parents are upset when their children behave in ways that you don't want to see. We're human beings. We are upset with our children. We have an emotional response. So when using this strategy, you may not be quite ready to go right to your time in, which means time you spend with your child, right away. So the first scenario that I'm going to cover is when you as a parent are upset and your child is also upset. So in this situation, a timeout or time away from the parent or a separation can be helpful as a first step, but best not to be used as punishment. If we put our children away in another space, we miss that opportunity for the teaching and the connection. But if you're upset and the child is upset, a timeout can be useful. But it's important to remember that no matter how we feel as parents, our children need us. They need to connect with us. We need to use those teaching tools rather than methods of punishment. So our children need our support to learn and change their behavior. So separation can be used, but the connection and teaching should follow. So I guess what we're suggesting is that it's maybe best not to respond immediately if both parent and child are upset. So once we get to the point where the parent is calm enough and the children are still upset, the parents can start to build their time in or repair time routine in a neutral space. So we're saying that parents need to still take charge and be firm, but yet kind and caring in your approach. It's suggested that parents maintain a calm tone of voice, firm, but reassuring and kind. So if your child is very upset, especially with a young child, if you want to do some teaching with your child, sometimes it helps to do something different for a few minutes. So you might read, you might look out the window, you might get them doing a chore. I mean, if you have a child that's just completely highly emotional, out of control, it's very difficult to communicate with your child at that time. You might do something different with them to get to a point where you're able to talk with them. So during your time in, so the time you spend with your child, the parent helps the child bring words to their feelings and talk about what happened and how it made both you and your child feel. So it's important to tell your child how they made you feel and how they make other people around them feel, but also important to talk to your child about how they were feeling when they were behaving in the way that they shouldn't have been. And using this model, it's important to stay with your child until they are calm. So when you reach a point, maybe after you've done an activity to distract, got your child to a place where they're calm and able to listen to you, to work through the issue with you, and the parent is also calm, that's when the parent can help the child find words for their needs and feelings they're struggling with by listening and talking with your child. So that's really the foundation for seeing change, lasting change in your child's behavior, is taking that time for the teaching. So parents need to help their child take responsibility for their part. And it's also important for parents to take responsibility for their part. So parents aren't perfect. Parents get upset too. And it's important to talk about that with your child and explain to them why you reacted in the way that you did. So it's important for parents to talk to their child about new ways of dealing with problems in the future. And we say this is even important with very young children. Even if it may seem that they don't understand, it's important to talk to them and encourage positive patterns of behavior in the future as they grow. So it's suggested that we even do this with really young children, talk to them about new ways of dealing with problems in the future. So Marisa, anything that you'd like to say?
One of the big questions, is better the sound in this moment? Sorry, no? Did you hear me?
I hear you, but I struggle.
Oh my God.
We can hear you, but it's the static, Marissa. There seems to be static in the background.
The situation is I am using the both sims. I'm using the...
I'm not going to talk to that.
No?
هاتي لك هلا هون طيب والله هلا حمض فيها هلا بدك اعملك.
Okay. One of the main things that always people are asking is, when is a good moment to start talking with the children, and when is a good moment to start doing the time in or the time out? Gabriel, what is your best? You were talking about we have to start as soon we can, like for little ones is a good idea to start that conversation. Then, oh my God.
So with little ones, I mean, it's first step is you need to kind of get them sort of regulated and calm down. And then ensure that you take that time to have that discussion with them. And it shouldn't be a lengthy discussion. I mean, you can keep it short and to the point. But it's sometimes as parents, we forget to do that teaching piece. You know, you separate the child, or you put them in their bedroom or a timeout, and then we don't go back and do that moment where you reconnect with the child and you talk to them about their behavior and what you'd like to see from them. So it doesn't have to be, you know, a long discussion, especially with little ones.
Thank you, Gabriel. Any other question from the participants?
Mm-hmm. Children, they are looking to be understood for, have a parent ask them questions about why they behaved the way they did. How were they feeling? And then it helps you understand sort of what went wrong for the child. Because children communicate through their behavior. So I'll kind of go to the next point. So like I said, our children's behavior may look like it's something that's being done on purpose. But we feel that at its root, it's an issue of needing to reconnect with their parent to learn how to handle their feelings in a safe and secure way and in a different way. Behavior is really the primary mode of communication for young children. So we believe that it's the relationship that parents build with their child that will build the child's capacity to organize their feelings, to respond to stressors, and make positive choices. So sometimes in the past, we felt that, you know, taking that authoritative approach or a fear-based approach would lead children to behave in the way that you want them to. But this is kind of a different way of thinking in the sense that, yeah, your relationship with your child is based on trust rather than authority. So, and the teachings that you instill in your child. So young children, it's very difficult for them, especially when they're highly emotional, to organize their feelings and figure out what they need. So as parents, we need to be there for our children to help them figure out what it is they need. And to help them make those positive choices and help them respond to situations that they might encounter at school, home, or out in the community.
What are the good tools that are around, Gabriel, to help the children to understand and to get familiar with their feelings? That will be another important thing. That is not only when it's in every single moment that we need to recognize, help them to recognize all those feelings. Then when they are playing, we will point it out how happy they are, and when they are frustrated, we will look at the ways to highlight how they are feeling in that moment. And also there are tools that probably will help them to really manage that feeling, like breathing example. I remember in one of the yoga classes for moms and children, they have all these little elements that will move with the air. Then they can start breathing and change a little bit their feelings and recognize that when they are breathing, they can really change their feelings. And also it's good for parents, because if you are in certain moment really upset, or are your feelings are not the more positive one, take a breath, breathe, and take a sip of water. It will help you to manage in better way your feelings. I think that is a little tips that could help parents and children to really handle the feelings in a better way and to learn how to recognize them.
And I think a big thing is that, you know, with everything that your children are exposed to at school and the community, different people, different teachings, different ideas, you really want your children to kind of always come back to mom and dad, to their caregivers, to their parents, and reconnect with them. So it's important to have a routine of connecting with your child regularly, talking with your child. Maybe you find the time, because everybody's really busy. Everybody has work and school and chores and maybe a number of children. So for example, with my son, I find he'll talk to me right before he goes to bed. I'll go and just lie down with him for a few minutes. And it's not a long conversation, it's maybe 5 minutes. But I talk to him about, you know, I ask him if there's anything that he'd like to talk about. And I reassure him that he could tell me, you know, he can tell me anything that he wants to tell me, or anything that he wants to talk about. And I'm not going to be mad at him or upset with him. But so we just have that 5 minutes a day where we sit together, and I get a lot of information out of him about different situations that he encountered with children in his preschool and maybe something that he did wrong during the day that the teacher had to speak to him about, or maybe we talk about a situation that happened at home that I want to bring up with him and talk to him. So I think it's important to have that little bit of time that we take out of our busy day to just connect with each of our children, especially if you have more than one child, to just encourage them to talk to you as their safe person, as their teacher, as their person they trust to provide them with the guidance that they need. So and another topic that I talked about with Marisa was flexibility. So all of our children are individuals, and they ask for what they need from us as parents and communicate through their behavior in different ways. So we need to be flexible in our approach with each individual child, and creative in the ways that we find to communicate with them and connect with them. So maybe that few minutes a day that you connect with each child is different, of course, based on the age of the child. Maybe you read individually with one child, maybe you play a game or do a puzzle or build something with blocks with another child that will communicate through play, and maybe with an older child, you have a common interest and you connect with them in that way. So it's just important to be flexible in our approach with each of our individual kids. And I mentioned this already, but based on this model, we feel that building a healthy and secure relationship with a child is the foundation for redirecting behavior as the parent is building trust rather than authority. And we encourage, of course, teaching rather than punishment as a method of discipline. So any questions around that, or Marisa, anything that you'd like to add?
Flexibility is one of those topics that are really hard to really get in contact with. That demands from us a lot of reflection and to check where we are in every single moment when we are starting our actions, because we have one way to do things, and it's difficult to learn that there are many other ways to do things. And children are exposed in many different environments to see different ways to behave, different ways to approach their feelings, and different ways to react. And to be open, and it's even worse when we are immigrants, because the situation here is that in our countries was more closer the ways to do things to our beliefs. Now that we are in the new environment, there are many, many different ways that we can really understand in the first place. And that is when the flexibility is calling us. Mm-hmm. I think that is one of those topics that we have really to be careful, because the children get older and get the opportunity to be in environments that are very different to the one that we have been creating at home. Then that interpretation of the reaction and the way that children are behaved have to be really involved in that conversation that Gabriel was asking or was talking a moment ago. Because for the little ones, they will probably express something that is closer to our way to understand. But for the teenagers, example, that are going to the high school and they are exposing to many different ways to relate one to other, and there are things that are really against our beliefs and against our ways to see. That is the moment that really we need to go deep in our conversations and also deep in our interpretation, because I think a flexibility has to be with those two things, how I am interpreted the things, how my child is interpreting, and how I can interpret it, what is going on. I think that
I agree, especially with the older, your high school children and middle school children. They need to be able to, I mean, it's a parent's job to share the beliefs and values of the family with your child and allow your child to talk about what's going on around them in order to help your child develop their own strong value and belief system of their own. And the parents really need to be open to that conversation about what your child experiences outside of the home, in order to help them, develop a strong value system of their own. And it's important for, I guess, for kids to have confidence too, to do things differently than what their peers are doing. So you could talk about scenarios. Okay, what are you going to do if other peers are doing these things? Talking to them about how it's okay to be an individual and differences are okay, and to find a way where your child can fit within their family and within their community here in New Brunswick as well. I don't know if that kind of matches what you're saying, Marissa, but especially with our high school kids, we want them to feel that home is a place that they can talk about what's going on in their lives. They want, children need that safe person and people at home to be able to communicate with about what they're experiencing.
Yeah, it's exactly that, because when we start getting close to what the challenge of parenting are in this moment for newcomers, this topic, I think, that is the top one. Is children are not listening anymore, children are not talking anymore, children are behaving in the ways that we can understand. Then that, how from that flexibility I can rebuild my communication with the older ones and the ones that are seeing values and attitudes and beliefs that are totally different with the ones that we are having at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Are there any questions from the group? Anything that anyone would like me to go back to